Hello everyone, this is Varun Bansal. Today, I hope you all are doing good. And let me introduce you to the speaker, Mr. Saurav Kundru sir, who will be taking this session and this boot camp ahead. So I think he is going to be one of the great personality to make you understand about Azure and the concepts because he is ATEX Azure certified, a Microsoft certified Azure solutions architect, data scientist, data engineer, and data analyst. And apart from that, he is a technical trainer. So I think he's going to be the perfect person to take this journey forward. And so, without any delay, let me hand over the stage to Sir. Sir, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for joining and thanks to Azure Developer Community for organizing this. So, without any delay, let me start. Okay, let me present my screen. Okay, so my screen is visible, right? My screen is visible, right?
Yes, sir, it's perfectly visible.
Hello.
Yes, sir, your screen is visible.
Okay, okay. So, just a quick introduction about myself. You already told me. So, I'm a technical architect, around 14 years of experience, and I'm a solution architect, data scientist, data engineer, data analyst, and Azure administrator, certified by Microsoft. This is my LinkedIn profile. So, if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me here. Okay, so first of all, let us go through the skills which will be measured in this AZ-900 exam. So previously the syllabus was a bit different. So this is as per the new syllabus. So the first one is describe cloud concepts. That will be 25 to 30% of the questions will be coming up. The second is describe Azure architecture and services. So 35 to 40% questions will be coming up from here, and the third one is describe Azure management and governance. So 30 to 35% questions will be coming up from here. And the passing score will be 700. So in this link, you can go directly and can check here in this site if you want to go through the details of this certification. Okay. So here you will get few links. So you can download from here as well. There is an Azure exam study guide with few details about the examination. So you can get some overview over here that what type of topics will be covered under which section. The next one is you will also get some free sample questions here that will help you to understand how this examination is going to come to you. You will get this type of multiple choice questions, and you can go through these questions and can understand that what type of questions might come up in the examination. So it will be helpful for you. Okay, so these are few helpful links present here, and also you can do an exam experience by visiting the exam sandbox if you want. So here you can register and go through the details. Here are also few tutorials present from Microsoft end. So I will be following most of the Microsoft documentation in my slides, and based on that I will proceed, and I will be covering up most of the topics which will be coming in this examination. Along that I will be going through few of the hands on. So let me go to the next slide. So if you want to use Azure, so you need to register Azure in Azure portal first. So this link will help you to register. I already have one, so I cannot register again with the same email ID. So through this link, you can sign in and create a new user ID and password for you as a new portal for you. And once you register for the first time, you will be getting this 200 USD as your credit, using which you can do practice, create services, those things you can do. And here are different details also available that what are the free services you are going to get from here. Okay, so you will be getting only 30 days for that. You have to use those $200 credits within 30 days only. So let's start for today's topic. So first of all, let us understand what is cloud computing is. So Everyone is moving to cloud nowadays from on premise. So let us first understand what cloud computing actually is. So it is basically a delivery of computing services such as storage, servers, database, software, etc. It's just it will just deliver you some computing services. Okay, you but the main thing is that you do not need to means create your own infrastructure for that. You only need to have a cloud Azure account. For that you just need to enter your credentials, enter the portal, and you will be getting all those services within the portal itself, and you will need to pay only what you will be using. So it's a pay as you go pricing model, and it's a consumption based model. So whatever you will be consuming, based on that only you will be paying the price for that, and everything will be delivered over the internet. Nothing physical you have to maintain for this. So this is a brief introduction of what's a cloud computing is. The next is what is the benefits of cloud computing. So previously everything used to be on premise, right? So if you want to set up your infrastructure, you have to uh, take an office, create some furnitures, different machines, networks, hardwares, servers, everything you have to maintain, right? But if you are using cloud, you do not need anything like that. So there is no upfront cost. You just need to, again repeating the same thing, you just need to create an account in Azure, and you will be just entering your account using Azure portal. You will be creating whatever is required for you. So it will be as a pay as you go pricing model. And the next benefit is high availability, no apparent downtime. So suppose you have your on-premise infrastructure and something happens. So what will happen? The services will not be available during that time, right? So it will be a downtime. So the users who will be using those services will not be able to access the services during that downtime. But here in cloud, that facility is there. The service will be always highly available because the service will be distributed across the regions around the globe. So if one region fails, so the another region will continue to support the services. And the next option is scaling is easy. So there are two types of scaling: vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. So suppose let us first take the vertical scaling. So vertical scaling is adding RAM or CPU to a virtual machine. So at times you might need some extra memory or extra processing power on a specific day or a specific month, when you can expect more users, means trying to hit your service. It happens, right, in different e-commerce website as well. So during a particular day, so there will be some sales and those things will happen. So during that time, more users will be visiting your site. So what will happen, the traffic will increase. So suppose you have a normal RAM configured, and during that time you will be needing a high configuration RAM. So that setup you are required to do if you are using your on premise infrastructure. So that time you need to again buy some RAM with high configuration, and you have to use those. And once that specific time duration is gone, you will still be having that RAM, right? So in cloud you will have that facility. So during only that high traffic, you can just auto scale everything. That automatically the configuration of the RAM will increase during that time, and once the traffic decreases, it will automatically decrease. So similar way, you can also add more instances of your virtual machine during that specific time when the pressure will be high or the traffic will be high. And once it decreases, it will automatically decrease the number of instances of virtual machines. So that is the horizontal scaling. And the next one is geo distribution. So all services are geographically distributed. There are different regions across the globe where the data centers of Microsoft Azure is present. So suppose you are deploying your application maybe to East US, you can geographically distribute that, and also can place another instance of that application in Europe. So suppose due to means some reason the means the server of East US goes down, then what will happen? The server from the European region will continue to serve the customers. So in this way, it helps if you are using cloud computing. And the same thing is that disaster recovery, what I just said. So easy backup is there also because the data replication is there due to geo distribution. So there are different options present in Azure. So you need to configure it, and based on your configuration only you will get these options. And also, as I already told you, means this pay as you go model. So whatever you are using different facilities, high configuration facilities. Based on that, you will be paying that, and nothing extra. Whatever you will use, you will pay for that. And so due to this reason, it will help you to focus on business activities rather than the infrastructure, because infrastructure will be totally handled by the cloud providers. You will only means focus on the business, means who are the customers, what type of infrastructure I need to create, on which day the pressure will be high and the pressure will decrease. Based on that, you will just create the architecture and design of your cloud infrastructure. Based on that, everything will be done. So these are the benefits of the cloud. The next is we need to understand different types of cloud. So there are three types of cloud: public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. So from the name itself, you can understand that the public cloud are offered over the public internet and available to anyone who wants to purchase them. So there are Microsoft Azure, AWS, Google Cloud. So the different cloud resources such as servers, storage, everything are operated by them and delivered over the internet, and you will be using those as per your subscription. The second one is private cloud. So this is a bit different, that you can understand from the name. It's used exclusively by the users from one business or organization. So it's physically located at the organization's on-premise data center. Okay, so there are different examples also. HP data center, Microsoft also provides, Ubuntu is there. So this one is private cloud. And the third one is hybrid cloud. So from hybrid, you can understand it's a combination of private and public cloud. So hybrid cloud is a computing environment that combines a public cloud and a private cloud by allowing data and applications to be shared between them. Okay, so here also there are different providers: Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Cisco. So these are the three type of cloud. You need to understand this for the exam. So let me go to the next slide. There are different cloud service models as well. The first one is IaaS, that is infrastructure as a service. So this is uh, this is one of the service model which is closest to managing physical servers. Okay, let me explain. So if you have some physical servers at your on-premise location, it is the closest one. Only that you do not have the physical hardware. You will be logging into the cloud environment, and you will be creating a virtual machine which will be similar to your own physical machine. And once you enter or log in into that virtual machine, you will be installing softwares and different things. I have created one. Let me show you now. I will get back to it afterwards as well. So this is an instance of virtual machine. So here you can enter and you can see that it's behaving as a normal machine only, like everything is present, right? So this is a virtual machine, and within which you will be able to do whatever you do with your own personal computer. Okay, so this is an IaaS, infrastructure service. So you can configure and manage the hardware for your application. The next one is PaaS, that is platform as a service. So it will provide you same benefits as IaaS, but with few additional benefits, so that you can focus on the application development only. So platform management is totally handled by cloud provider. You will only concentrate on the your application development, nothing else. Rest of the thing will be taken care by the cloud provider. So you will develop your application and will deploy it into the cloud. So example is Azure App Service. We will also come to that afterwards, and we'll be having some hands on. The third one is SaaS, that is software as a service. So here everything is there. You only need to provide your data, such as Microsoft Office 365. So it will have same benefits as PaaS, but there are some additional benefits. So cloud provider will manage everything respect to application environment, and you will need to provide only your data to the application managed by the cloud provider, and you have to pay as per your subscription model. So these three cloud service model you need to understand, because some questions might come in exam that this is the thing means virtual machine or app service or Microsoft Office or something else, what type of cloud service model it follows. So these three things you have to understand a bit, and in next slide we will get in much details. This is actually from Microsoft site. So green color, that is you are managing, and the blue color is managed by the cloud provider. So you can see that on premise everything you are managing, right? Data and access, applications, runtime, operating system, virtual machine, compute, network, storage, everything. But when you are coming to infrastructure as a service, you can see that data, application, runtime, operating system, and virtual machine you are managing, but that computing, network, and storage, everything is managed by the cloud providers. And in platform as a service, runtime, operating system, and virtual machine is also taken care. Along with compute, networking, and storage, you are only managing the applications, data, and access. And in software, as we already have seen earlier, you are only providing the data, and rest everything is managed by the cloud provider. So this model you need to understand. Okay, so this is important. Let us move to next one. It's another important concept, that is capex versus opex. So capex is capital expenditure. So it's involves the cost required to pay upfront primarily on hardware and infrastructure to start a business. So here you need to pay everything for your initial infrastructure cost, right? So if you have an office on premise, you have to create everything on your own first regarding the infrastructure. So there will be high capital expenditure if you are setting up everything in your on premise. So there are examples are server cost, storage cost, software license cost, data center cost, everything. So cloud platform actually tries to remove this as much as possible. As you see that you do not need to set up anything. And this operational expenditure is the cost of ongoing expenses such as maintenance cost, wages, software annual maintenance cost, etc. So you need to understand this concept for the exam. Okay. And the next one is just a few links I have given, that Azure is a, you already know, cloud computing platform provided by Microsoft, which is used to deploy, build, manage applications. These are a few links you can refer. So here are few links. From here you can register and do these things. Free account, Microsoft documentation. I've already seen there are code samples also. Here you can go through them if you want. Okay. So now let us start with different concepts which are specific to Azure. So now the cloud basic concepts are clear. So let us move into this one. So you can see it is mentioned in this diagram. You can see this is also from Microsoft site. At the base level, there are resources. Okay. So resources are means basically the atomic part of all the things whatever in the cloud platform. So virtual machine, storage, SQL database, everything whatever is present in cloud platform is a resource. And resources are clubbed into resource groups. Okay, so resources are combined into resource group which act as a logical container into which Azure resources like web apps, database, storage accounts are deployed and managed. So let us go to the portal. Okay, so this is the Azure portal. Whenever you will be logging into the portal, you will come into this home screen. Here in the left side you will get some options. Everything is resources. Here you can see you can directly create a resource from here by creating a resource by selecting from this option, or you can search from here and go to, just type here suppose I am writing for resource group. So here you can see resource group comes. I can select here. From here I can go and can select that. Okay, so here everything will be coming like this, or you can select from here as well, the same thing will come. or you can select directly from here as well. So there are different options. So let me first go to the resource group. So this is the resource group. You can see the different resources are created within this resource group. I have created for this today's demo. So these are all resources which are under resource group. Okay, so this is a logical group for all those resources. So if you do not basically need any of those resources, you can directly go and delete this resource group. All the resources within this resource group will be deleted. So what is the benefit of this resource group? Actually, suppose there might be some different departments or different applications which are there, which needs to be managed separately. So suppose you can create one resource group for sales department, one resource group for some other department. So in this way, I'm giving just an example. Those can also be handled using tags, but you can do these things to segregate everything logically. Okay, so this resource group, within this is resources, and resources are within subscription. So let me go to this resource group. You can see here it is under a subscription, right? So subscription, then resource group, then within resource group the resources, and now the final one is the management group. So let me go back to the management group. So here you will not be able to see. Let me type here management group. You get here. So you can see this is a management group. Within there are two subscription present. Let me go inside this subscription. So this subscription I'm using. So within this you can see resource group, within resource group resources. So this is basically a hierarchy you need to remember. Okay, so it should be clear now. So subscription groups together user accounts, resources that have been created by those user accounts, and management groups. These groups help you manage the access policies compliance for multiple subscriptions. All subscriptions in a management group automatically inherit the conditions applied to the management group. So if you assign some policy or access related things on the management groups, all the subscription under that group, it also come under those policies and compliances. So this is the hierarchy you need to remember. Next is what is data center. So data center, you can understand, it's a large group of network computer servers typically used by organizations for the remote storage, processing, or distribution of large amounts of data. So you can see from the right side picture, right? It's from Wikipedia. So huge number of servers, networks, everything is there. So here all your data are stored, right? So whenever you are accessing something, so from this data center, your data is getting retrieved. So this is data center definition. So next is Azure region. So what is Azure region? So data centers are distributed across the globes. Basically here you will say across the region, different region across the globe, the data centers are present. So whenever you are creating some resource, let me go back here. Let me create maybe a virtual machine to show you. So whenever you are creating a virtual machine or any other resources, you will see there is one region option is coming up, right? So there are different regions are coming here. So you need to understand which region you need to select. So on what basis you will check? So suppose you have some customers on Europe, you will prefer to select a region near to that region where your customers are present. Maybe it's Europe or US or somewhere else. And also you need to understand that all region do not have all services available. So that thing also you need to check from the documentation, that if you need this service A, whether that service is present in that region or not where you are planning to deploy it. Okay, if that region is not providing that services, maybe the next nearest region to your customer you need to select. On that basis you need to select the region from here. So whenever it's a thumb rule, whenever you are creating one resource in Azure, you need to select one region. Okay, so this is the regions available as of now. So it is a geographical area on the planet that contains at least one but potentially multiple data centers that are nearby and network together with a low latency network. So it will be the traffic which will be traveling very fast. When you deploy resource in Azure, you will often need to choose the region which you want to resource deploy. So that's we already just discussed. So here is a link. It's a very good link actually. So from here you will see this globe, right? Now if you explore this globe, you just can do like this. So if you go to India, maybe first start with this North America. So you can see, right, Central US, this is the West Central US. So these are all the data centers present, and Europe here, these are data center present. From here you can understand. Okay, so in this manner you will get everything. So India is here. See here, these are the data centers present. So if you click here, you will get all those details if you want to deep dive. So this link you can check if you want to understand how this is distributed across the globe. So this is the Azure region. Next, we are coming into another concept called availability set. Okay, so one of the main benefits of using cloud is your services will be always available, right? So on-premise, if your on-premise system is down or infrastructure is down, the service will be not available to your customers. So that's the main one of the main disadvantage of on-premise. So one of the main advantages of cloud is your services will be always available. So there are different concepts for that. One is availability set. So what availability set does, it protects your machines against infrastructure level failures. Okay, it is a logical grouping of VMs that allows Azure to provide for redundancy and availability. I will come to these details. Let me go through this first. Each virtual machine in your availability set is assigned an update domain and a fault domain by the underlying Azure platform. So what is update domain and what is fault domain? So suppose you have only one machine and suppose some failure happens. So your service is down. There is no other option through which you will be able to access the service. So fault domain will help you to access those services even though one of your machine is down. So it is basically a group of virtual machines that share a common power source and network switch. So there will be more than one machine. If one machine goes down, another machine will provide you the service. Simple, right? So you will not be able to understand that, right? Maybe there might be some lag if some network issue is there, but you will not able to understand it. So once one machine goes down, another machine will automatically provide you the service. That is for fault domain. And for update domain is, suppose some underlying upgradation is going on in one machine, right? So that time if you are hitting that machine will not be able to provide you the service. So in that case, there should be some other machine which will be providing you the service at during that time when the other machine is going through the upgradation process, right? So each availability set can be configured up to 3 fault domains and 20 update domains. Let me go back to the portal. Okay, so now you can see here the same virtual machine, it's there. So here there is some options, right? Availability options. One is availability zone, one is virtual machine scale set, one is availability set. So if you want to make your virtual machine availability in a better way, you can select any of those three. These three will handle your request in a different manner. So we are dealing with availability set now. So if you select availability set, and if I select new, you will see this right hand option is coming up, right? There are fault domains, there are update domains. So you can see what is mentioned here, the same thing, common power source and things. So two fault domains, it's by default selected, maximum you can select 3, and update domains 5 is selected, maximum you can select 20. Okay, so we are not selecting it here because I will show you another thing. I have already created one availability set. Let me go back there. So this is the availability set. I have created two virtual machines within that single availability set. If I go inside this, you can see that within this availability set, there are two virtual machines running. The one virtual machine is running within fault domain 0 and update domain 0, and another virtual machine is running within fault domain 1 and update domain 1. So this, if this one goes down, the 0 will go down, the 1 will continue to serve the customer. So in this way, this is handled both for fault and update domain case, right? So this is managed by availability set. This is at the infrastructure level. Next one is availability zone. So these are actually physically separate data centers within an Azure region. The availability center was not within different data centers. It was within a single one. So it is availability zone, which is physically separate data centers within an Azure region. So if one whole data center goes down, then availability set will not be able to provide you the service. In that case, you will need availability zone, right? So if you want that type of data availability, then you will be going for availability zone. You see, availability zone 1, availability zone 2, availability zone 3. So each availability zone is made up of one or more data centers equipped with independent power, cooling, and networking. It works as a protection at data center level failure. So if one data center level failure happens, availability sets will not be able to handle that. In that case, availability zone will be able to provide you the service properly. Availability zone is set up to be an isolation boundary. One zone goes down, the other continues working. Availability zones are connected through high speed private fiber optics. So you have already seen where we can select that. If I go to virtual machines, if I go to new, here you will again get that option. Then you will need to select the availability zone. So 3 availability zones are available. Based on your design and requirement, you can distribute among them. Okay. So next is coming. Here is the concept. It's explained through a diagram. So there is one application A which is running on a data center 1. East US region is the region where it is deployed. So if data center 1 goes down, the application goes down. So now if that East US region data center 1, along with that it is deployed into a data center 2, then the data center 2 will continue to provide the service although the data center 1 is down, right? So this is the availability zone thing. Okay, the third one is it's replicated across different regions. So if now the whole East US region is down, then the UK West region will continue to serve the purpose. So in this way, you can handle your availability things. Okay. Okay. So now these are the concepts. Now let us move into Azure Compute Services. So Azure Compute is an on-demand computing service for running cloud-based applications. It provides computing resources such as disk, processors, memory, networking, and operating systems. You pay only for the resource you use and only for as long as you are using them. So same thing, right? Whatever you will be using, you will be paying only for that. So there are different compute services: virtual machine, container instance, Kubernetes services, app services, Azure functions. Okay, so let us move into portal. So we have already seen how this virtual machine, it's, you can create these things. It will take some time. For interest of time, I have already created few of them. So let us go inside one of them. Okay, so this is the virtual machine. After it gets created, you will land into this screen. So you will see all those details: virtual machine name, what are the networking. So you will be having some IP address, right? Because you will be accessing that machine, right? So there are different virtual networks also there. So, and along with that, you need to assign some disk size, whatever is there, how the scaling will happen, what are the security, those things. Everything you can see from here. If you go to networking, you will see that different rules has been defined, that how this virtual machine is going to be accessed. You can add more rules. So here you can see RDP is given. Okay, so using this only, we are able to use the remote desktop. So if I remove this, if I delete this, then you will not be able to access this machine using remote desktop. You can see we can access it now. Okay, so we can access this now. So if I delete that, you will not be able to access. So how are you going to access this disk? So here you can see there is a connect option, right? So this is a Windows machine. We will be using RDP. So here in this RDP, you will be downloading this RDP file, right? So this gets downloaded. So once it's downloaded, if you click, this will open only. So in this way, you will be able to access that virtual machine. Okay. So in this way, you will be able to access this virtual machine. So you can check other options as well. What are the different options available? Here is one activity log. Whatever activity has been done, you can check from here. So creation has been done. I created this. So different options are there. Networking, you've already seen that network groups are mentioned. If this is inbound, outbound port rules, you can mention here, right? So virtual network, I created VNet1. So this is associated with that. So in this way, you can go through different details for virtual machine. For this exam purpose, you need to understand the concepts, and you need to answer the questions. If you want to understand in much depth, you have to go through more details, which will be useful for your next level exams, right? So this is virtual machine. So virtual machines are software emulations of physical computers, provides infrastructure as a service, include virtual processor, memory, storage, and networking resources, host an operating system, and you can install and run software just like a physical computer. You can customize all the software running on the VM. So we have already discussed everything. It's just a software emulation of your physical computer. Only physical computer is not there. You are accessing everything from the cloud, and rest of the things are same what you should be doing with your physical computer, right? Next is virtual machine scale set. So Azure compute serve resource that you can use to deploy and manage a set of identical VMs. So using virtual machine scale set, you can create identical VMs. So this is another way of providing the availability or auto scaling your virtual machines whenever there are high traffic, right? The same scenario I'm coming back again. So more VM instances will be added when there will be increase in demand, and as the demand goes down, it will be going down. So VM instances will be removed. So easier to build large scale services targeting big compute, big data, and containerized workload. So when there will be large scale services which you need to create for handling large amount of compute or large amount of data, that time it will be helpful. And it can, you can manually or automatically, or using both options, you can add or remove this virtual scale set option. So let me again go back to virtual machines, uh, create this option. If I go to this one, you will get virtual machine scale set, right? So there is no virtual machine scale set. If I go here, you can see that here we need to create the virtual machine scale set, right? Here we need to maybe virtual Gene demo is it like this some name zone. I'm not selecting anything. There are two options: orchestration mode. So whenever there will be change in demand, you need to adjust those accordingly, right? So choose how virtual machines are managed by the skill set. In flexible orchestration mode, you manually create and add a virtual machine of any configuration to the skill set. In uniform orchestration mode, you define a virtual machine model and Azure will generate identical instances based on that model, right? So if you select uniform and if you select here maybe Gen 2, so here we'll be providing maybe I'm not creating, it will take some time. I am just showing you. Next is disk, next is networking, next is scaling. So here you can see, right, how the scaling happens. So initial instance count. So initially it will start with 2, right? The number of virtual machine is up to 0 to 1000. Initially it will start with 2, and based on that it will auto scale. So if auto scale you select, you can see, right, minimum number of instance. Minimum it will be 1, maximum it will be 10. You can increase this. Scale out CPU threshold percentage. So once the CPU percentage will be more than 75%, and if this more than 75% scenario is happening for more than 10 minutes, then this instance will be increased by 1. So suppose now there are two instances running and suddenly the threshold CPU threshold is 70, maybe 80, and it is going for more than 10 minutes, so it will become 3, 2 plus 1 3. Okay, so it will increase. And if similarly if the CPU threshold is less than 25, okay, so if it is less than 25, then it will decrease by 1, again it will come back to 2. Okay, so in this manner you can auto scale it, right? So in this way virtual machine scale set will help you to handle your traffic. You understood, right? So in this way you need to configure it based on your requirement, because this configuration, whatever you will be doing, based on that you will be charged. So you have to keep in mind whatever charge might come based on the cost calculators, which we will see afterwards, maybe tomorrow or after that. So based on that you need to understand what cost you will be incurring, and you also need to understand what traffic you might experience. So depending on those two things you need to configure this one. In this way you will be using the virtual machine skill set. Okay, so the next one is container instance and Kubernetes services. So first of all we need to understand what is a container, right? Container is a standard package of software that bundles an application's code together with the related configuration files and libraries, and with the dependencies required for the app to run. This allows developer and IT pros to deploy applications seamlessly across environments. Container is basically a virtualization environment, and you can run multiple containers on a single physical or virtual host. Okay, so container is basically a package of software along with the application code. Suppose your application A needs a software, suppose .NET, some specific X version, right? And your application B need the same .NET X version. So both are running fine on the same machine, right? So no problem with that. But suddenly there is some upgradation in your application B. For that you need a Y version of your .NET application. So then what will happen? The application A will not be able to run if you upgrade, although your application B is running due to some reason. I'm just giving an example of .NET. It might be some other type of software as well. So in that scenario what will happen? There will be problem, right? So container will help you to package it in a single virtualization environment, so that your application A will be happily running with the version X, and your application B will only be upgraded with version Y. So both will be running parallelly, no issues with that. So in this way container will be helpful if you are using containers. Okay, And another thing is that suppose everything is working fine in your development environment, right? So you are installing a certain version of software, you are running something, some other third party code and everything, all everything is running fine in your development environment, but whenever you are deploying into some other environment, it is failing. So there it happens in, suppose you are deploying into production or some other staging environment, it will fail due to some or other reasons, which is very difficult to track at times, right? So what here container will help you. Here we need to create images, right? For container we will create some images. So container with all set of package of software and application code together, and along with the configuration files and libraries and dependencies for that application, will be converted into an image. It will be stored somewhere, and the whenever that application is deployed into other environment, based on all those whatever is mentioned in that image, it will create that environment for that application, so that it is exactly similar, so no issues with that. So this is one of the main benefit of using container, right? So in this way it will be helpful to you. And but you have to manage, right? For managing it, you will need a container orchestrator, means it will manage, means suppose again the same thing, when the load increases or decreases, more instances or scaling out or starting or stopping, these things needs to be managed by some orchestrator, basically a manager who will manage everything and will assure that the customer is getting everything properly with minimum amount, means whatever lag is there, right? So in this way you will be able to manage everything, but otherwise uh, uh, it will be difficult for you if there is no manager, right? So here there is one Azure container instance. I will show you. I have created also one, or instead of time, if I go to container instance, so I have already created one. So here, once you have created this IP address will be generated, and you need to deploy it here. So here it is already created. So let me go and create quickly one thing. Container instance, if you create here, so whenever you are creating some container, you see you have three options: quick start images, Azure container registry, or other registry. So anywhere you can take. So I have taken a quick start image, that is this one. So here it is, once it is deployed, you are getting this image if you are hitting this IP where this container instance is deployed. Okay. So next one is Kubernetes service. It's a bit complex. So I will go here. So I will not be creating here because there are different YAML files and those things you need to create. Okay, so from here you can create that. And also if I go here, Azure Kubernetes service, there is a good link. From here you can go step by step and create, because it will be a bit complex, might not be required for this exam, because you need to understand only the concepts for this. But if you want, you see here that is a YAML file, you need to configure these things. So these are few complex things you need to understand. So based on that you can deploy that to the Azure Kubernetes service. So it will be orchestrating everything, your containers and everything, right? So concept, you need to understand what is Azure Kubernetes service, what is container service. And the next one is Azure App Service. So Azure App Service helps you to quickly build, deploy and scale enterprise grade web, mobile and API apps running on any platform. App Service is a platform as a service offering. It can easily scale resources up and down or in and out. It can easily set up continuous integration and continuous deployment, provide support for containerization and Docker. So whenever you are developing some applications, so you need to deploy that in cloud, right? So that is where you will be deploying app services. Okay, so if you are creating some app services, you need to go into app service and create from here. So you need to give a name, you need to select a stack, means it can be .NET, it can be Java, it can be Go, Node, anything. So if I select .NET from here, you need to select the region from where you will be selecting, and this different things you need to configure right from here. And you need to have Windows plan also if you select that type of configuration. So once it is done, this type of apps will be created, this service will be created, right? So this URL where it will be deployed, currently I haven't deployed anything, so you will get only this message: web app is running, wait for your content. So once you deploy it, that application will be deployed in this URL. So there is again one good link, I will share with you. So when you are deploying some app services, already it might happen some production level code is there, right? So if you directly deploy that into that production level code, and that production level code gets replaced by your new code, then there is always a possibility that there might be some issues in your new code, and now the production level services will get affected. So one of the main benefit provided by Azure App Service is a slot, right? So what a slot does, actually, it will help you to create different slots. So you will be deploying it to a staging slot. So once you deploy it to a staging slot, you will test in that staging slot only everything, whether everything is working fine as per your requirement with the new code, right? So once it is working fine, you only need to swap it with the production one. So now that production old code will be swapped with your new code. So now everything is fine. So this is one of the main benefit you will be having if you are using Azure App Service. You can go through this link and can check all the details whatever is there. Okay, but your concepts you need to be clear of that, where your app service and how it is useful. Next one is Azure Functions. So it's ideal when you are concerned only about the code running your service and not the underlying platform or infrastructure. Used when you need to perform work in response to an event, often via REST request, timer, or message from another Azure service, and when that work can be completed quickly within seconds or less. With functions, Azure runs your code when it's triggered and automatically deallocates resource when the function is finished. In this model, you are only charged for the CPU time used while your function runs. So here, Azure Functions, one of the main benefit is the cost will be there only during the time when you are using that functions, and whatever processing power you are using, based on that you will be charged. Rest of the time the code will be there as it is. Let us go to Azure Functions quickly. For creating your functions, we need to go to function app first. Here you need to create one function app. So once you create a function app, you will get this type of function app here. So if I go inside this, here you will get this option functions. Okay, so once you are here, you will see when you are creating create, you will have options to create different types of functions. So you will be developing in Portal only. There are different options. You can use VS Code or any other editor. We are developing in Portal only. There are these many types of options for creating functions. It might be an HTTP trigger. It might be a timer. It might be due to a queue storage, service bus, queue and service bus topic, blob storage trigger, event up trigger. So whenever something happens here, this function will be triggered, right? So here we have, for this demo, we have created one HTTP trigger only. So we are not creating anything. So let us go inside this HTTP trigger. If I go inside this code, you will see a code is there. It's taking some time. Yes. So you can see as I have selected .NET that time, so C# .NET code is there. So this HTTP request, what is taking? It's taking a parameter name, and if you are providing that parameter, it will show you hello. This is triggered successfully. Otherwise, it will ask you to provide the name. So how you will trigger it? You will get this function URL from here. Okay. So now if I paste it, I haven't provided any name, right? So it will mention executed subscript, pass a name. So if I pass a name now, now my name is there, right? So it is only mentioned here only. So in this way, these functions work. You can also test from here also. Here also you can test rather than going to separate. So if I run from here, so see the Azure was there, so automatically is done, and the triggered messages also came. So here you can test as well. So in this way you can use your functions. So this is the Azure function. Okay. So now we are coming into virtual network. So virtual network we have already visited when we are visiting the virtual machine. So let me go to virtual network. So here you can create one virtual network by using the create option. So from here you can give one virtual network name. I have already created one. So if you go to this virtual network, you will see all these details. And this virtual network is associated with two devices, virtual machines basically. So these are network interface cards using which these virtual networks are associated with these VMs. So you can see VM 100. We have already seen this, right? So in this way, it is also associated with this virtual machine as well. So this is basically a network. So your machine, if you are creating a physical machine also, you need to have a network, right? So here also this is a virtual network as it is in cloud. So this is the concept of virtual network. And another one is virtual network peering. So virtual network peering is used to connect two virtual networks. Once virtual network peering is done, the virtual machine can communicate via their private IP addresses across the peering connection. You can connect your on-premise computers and networks to a virtual network using point-to-site VPN, site-to-site VPN, and express route. So point-to-site VPN is connection is established between Azure Virtual Network and multiple client machines on your network over internet. So this will be separate client machines available, which you will connect from your Azure Virtual Network. That is point-to-site. Site-to-site is connecting between on-premise network and your Azure Virtual Network over internet. And the third one is express route. It is totally a private connection which is established between Azure and your network, and it more offers more reliability, faster speeds, and higher security than typical connection over the network internet. So it will not be over the internet, it will be a direct private connection. So it will be more secure and more reliable, right? So this is the express route I have told you. This will not be going over public internet. It more reliability and faster speed. So how you can peer the network? So if I go to this one virtual networks, here I will have an option peerings. So from here I can create a peer with another virtual network. So suppose I want to peer with another virtual network v2, then I have to provide these different peering links and those things. So once this peering is done, it will be automatically accessing using the private network in, okay, as a private network. Actually here you can see, right, via private IP address basically. So in this way, Azure network peering will help. So you need to understand these three types of options. It will come in exam. So which type of option will be more secure? Which type of options will be providing faster speeds? This type of things will come, and whether this private IP address concept will also come. If it comes, so this type of multiple choice might come. The next one is Azure Load Balancer. So this is basically a load balancer which provides TCP and UDP load balancing for internal and public facing applications. Uh, so basically what happens, you can, from the name you can understand that it is a load balancer. So whenever there is an increase in load, it will automatically balance across different VMs, right? So, but it will be doing it based on the port number and IP address, these things. Okay, so here you can see this architecture. So public load balancer balancing among web tier subnet, and this is internal load balancer balancing along business tier subnet. So in this way, it will balance the load actually. Again, the same thing. If your load increases, it will be balanced across multiple machines. And application gateway, it will also do the load balancing, but it will be doing that for HTTP and WebSocket request, right? So suppose here you can see this is the address, but slash images it will go to this pool, slash video it will go to this pool. So based on this HTTP URL, it will actually send request to different server pool. So traffic can be routed based on attributes of an HTTP request such as host name and URI path. For example, you can route traffic based on the incoming URL. So if slash images is in incoming URL, you can route traffic to a specific set of servers known as a pool configured for images. If slash video is there, the traffic is routed to another pool that optimized for videos. So this will be happening at using this HTTP one. The previous will be happening using the port and IP address. So this difference you need to remember, because in question it might come, though these two options are there, Azure load balancer and gateway, but you will be asking that which option you will select if you want to using source, IP address and port. So you can understand in this manner. So the next one is storage services. I will quickly cover it up. We are already past 9. So storage services, first of all, we need to understand what is Azure storage account. So storage account should be an unique namespace for your Azure storage data that accessible from anywhere in the world over HTTP or HTTPS. Data in this account is secure, highly available, durable, and massively scalable. Storage account consists of all the Azure storage data objects such as blobs, files, and disk. The storage account provides a unique namespace for your Azure storage data that's accessible from anywhere in the world over HTTP or HTTPS. Data in this account is secure, highly available, durable, and massively scalable. On the right side, you can see how you are storing your files or whatever data you have. So at the top level, you have an account. Next level, you have a container. Next level, you have a blob. Okay. So this is the account Sally. Within that, there are two containers, pictures and movies. Based on that, you will be providing the images, right? So can store massive amount of data. This is the Azure Blob storage, such as text or binary data. So in question it might come, you want to store text or binary data, which type of storage you will select, best one. So you can select blob storage. Or unstructured data, which type of you will select, you can select blob storage. Azure Blob storage is unstructured, meaning that there are no restriction on kinds of data it can hold. Again, the three types of resources: storage account, container, a blob in the container. And there are three access tiers for this. Basically optimized for data, this is optimized for data that is accessed on frequent basis, but the lowest cost. Cool is for infrequent, at least 30 days. Archive is more than 30 days. And this one, there is some problem in the PPT, in the between it's coming, I will remove that. Optimized for storing data that is accessed rarely and stored for at least 180 days. Has the lowest storage cost but higher data retrieval cost and latency compared to hot and cool tiers. So what you will store in the hot one, you will store the data which you will be accessing frequent basis, highest storage cost and lowest access cost. So if you are accessing it frequently, you will store the data in hot tier. If you are using a little bit of infrequent manner and it's stored for at least 30 days, you can lower your storage cost and move that to the cool one. And archive you will be not accessing, it will be accessing rarely and it will be stored for at least 180 days. It will be lowest storage cost but higher data retrieval cost and latency compared to hot and cool storage. So in this way you can actually optimize your storage cost. So let us go to this portal. If I go to storage account, I have already created one. So you can see here there are four options. I will come quickly the rest of them. Let me concentrate on containers now. So containers, this is an account. Within these containers, I can create another container if I want, right? With this access level, I can just mention. So here I have created one container. Within here, I have uploaded one CSV file. Okay, so this CSV file, if you select, you can select the data from here, whatever is there. Maybe if you want to add another one, 8 comma xyz comma a, these are all student id, student first name and grade. You can directly save here. Okay, next time you can if this file is already uploaded in preview, you will get a better view, right? You can download also if you want. Okay, so in this manner you can access these things. So if you go here inside this, it is basically I have created today, so it is in hot access tier. So it will be assuming that it will be accessed frequently. So if you want to move it to cool or archive, you just need to select from here, and you will be moving that to that access tier, and based on that you will be charged. So from here you can maintain that. Okay. So there are different options as well. You can check with them. Here these are different options available. And another thing I will mention you quickly about that life cycle I just told you. In storage account, there is another option called life cycle management. Whatever you are now doing manually, you can do it using a rule. Okay, for that you need to mention maybe some rule name, and you need to mention what type of blobs you will apply those rules. And if you select next, you will select that you see if then. So base blobs were last modified. So you will enter, suppose you last modified before 10 days. So you will be either moving to core storage, either moving to archive storage, or delete the blob. So in this way, you can also mention different types of lifecycle management rules. Based on that, it will automatically take place. You do not need to move it manually. So these are also different options available inside the storage account, right? So these are options are available. And let me move to this quickly. The next one in Azure file shares. So Azure files offer fully managed file shares in the cloud that are accessible via the industry standards server message block and network file system protocols. Can be mounted concurrently by cloud or premises deployments of Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, and can be accessed from anywhere in the world using a URL that points to the file. You can use shared access signature tokens to allow access to private asset or specific amount of time. So you are aware of this icon, right? In your machine, you can see sometimes some network drives and those things which are not in your machine, but you can access, right? So similarly, there are options here in cloud as well. So here you will be creating one file share, right? File share. So file share means you will be keeping some file here, and it will be mounted in your machine, and you will be able to access it as it is already in your machine, right? You have done that earlier as well. So if you connect here, you will see that what later you normally see, right? In your machine, if you are connecting to some other network drives, the data is in separate computer. So similarly, the data will be in cloud, but you will be accessing it from your machine as if you are accessing your local drive. So this later will be coming up, and there is a script. You need to run this script in your machine, then only you will be able to access this drive, right? So only thing you need to note, your port 445 should be available. This question sometimes comes, which port, maybe 445, 447 or 450 will be given, you have to select this 445 from there. Okay, so these things, small things you need to remember, right? So in this way you can do the file share. And the third one is queue. Everyone is available. What is queue is, it's first in first out. So here you can add messages, maybe message 1, message 2, message 3. So 3 message inserted. So if I dequeue message, what should be going? One is removed, right? Two and three is there. Again, if I dequeue message, two should be removed, right? So this is normal queue, but it is in Azure. So at times you need to process messages. For that, you might need this queue service of Azure, which is in cloud. You can store millions of messages. There is no restriction. Okay, so Azure Queue Storage is a service for storing large number of messages. You access messages from anywhere via authenticated calls using HTTP, HTTPS. A queue may contain millions of messages up to total capacity limit of storage account. A message can be up to 64 KB. And where you will be using it, as I told, application will add messages in the queue, and some other application will take that message from the queue. Okay, so queue will be used in this manner. And another one is Azure Table Storage. It's a service that stores non-relational structured data, basically a structured NoSQL data in the cloud. It will provide a key attribute stored with a schema-less design, and the partition key is used to split the data across various partitions, and the row key is used to identify an item within the partition. Let me go back. Storage account, tables. Here I have already created one table, but you will not be able to access it from here. You have to go to storage browser. From here you will need to go to tables. Here I have created this one. You can see there is partition key, row key, and a name. If I add an entity here, this partition key is there. What is the use? Split the data across various partitions. So, and this is row key is identify an item with the partition. So if I mention it as HR, if I mention it as 6, if I mention it some XYZ, what will happen? New record will be created. So HR, everything will be going into a single partition, sales will be going into another partitions, and these are unique identifier. These are the name. You can also add more properties. So these options are there. So you can already see non-relational structured data. So in this way, it will be helpful. And this one is the last one, data redundancy options. So we are talking quite frequently, right, that cloud provide redundancy. So the data is distributed according to the redundancy option what we are selecting. So there are four options available. One is locally redundant storage, zone redundant storage, geo redundant storage, and geo zone redundant storage. So locally redundant storage, what does? Your data is copied synchronously 3 times within a single physical location. You can understand this is a locally. So it's within a single physical location in the primary region. And in the zone, it's across 3 availability zones. You can understand from the name itself, in the primary region. And geo, it's data synchronously 3 times within a single physical location in the primary region using LRS, and copies data asynchronously to a single location in a secondary region. So two regions are there. So your data is geographically distributed. If one region fails, another region will support. And geo zone redundant storage means synchronously across 3 Azure availability zones in the primary region using ZRS. Previously one LRS, this one is ZRS because zone is there. So primary region zone will also come, and it will be copied into a secondary region asynchronously, a single physical location, right? So where you can select this one, I will just quickly show you. When you are creating a storage account, here you will get these options. Okay, so based on these options also different cost will be incurred. So based on your requirement only will select option, means whatever redundancy option you are using. So here you can use. So standard will provide you these four options, and if you are going with premium, then there are only two options, zone and locally. So you need to understand what type of infrastructure you need for your redundancy purpose. Okay, and this all are referred from this Microsoft documentation, whatever is there. And so that was it for today. We are ahead of time, but yeah, we are done for today. So any questions or anything you can ask.
Guys, I hope you liked the session, and sir gave really very nice insights about the session. Thank you very much, sir, for investing your time for the community and the folks to give your precious 1 hour to the community. We have a question from one of the student. He's asking, could you please explain about images a little bit?
Images means.
I think he's asking about container images.
Okay, so whenever you are using the blob storage, so you will be first of all you have to create a storage account. That is the first thing. Within that you will be creating a container. Okay, so within that container you can save your images. So blob storage is the one for which you can use those unstructured data and anything. Massive amount of storage you can, whatever is used you can go for blob storage. So here you can save those images and your cost will be also comparatively low.
Thank you very much, sir, for this answer for this question. I hope there are no other questions. Guys, if you have any other questions, you can kindly please join our Discord channel and put your doubts there. There will be at least anyone who will be answering the questions, and still your queries unresolved, sir will be there for another days to complete this boot camp. So you can bring up your questions tomorrow as well. We'll look into the questions. So can we end this stream as of now?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So
Thank
thank
you.
you everyone
Thanks.
for joining. Thank you very much, sir, for joining. Good night. Tata.
Yeah.